Are you ready to get your feet wet? Because this is the Knowledge Pool, hosted by Gathering Information. We're here to bring you a casual conversation between friends about everything to do with collecting, trading, and playing Magic the Gathering.
I am Tams.
I am Step.
And I am Laura.
So put on your bathing suits and dive right into the Knowledge Pool.
Since Step is not ready, I will begin. Welcome to the Knowledge Pool.
Are you sitting comfortably, Laura?
Yes, high atop this mountain.
Excellent.
It is episode 43.
It is.
And we are all gathered here today to talk about the wilds of Dominaria.
Yes, indeed. But first, is there a but first?
There is a couple of topics to talk about. Yes, I'm trying not to leap into your trap there, because I'm sure it was going terrible places. So yeah, just a couple of small things. There hasn't been too much going on. First week of standard post-banning.
Uh-huh.
And all the results are from team events. So,
yeah.
Who knows?
Shown there.
So results are pending, I guess.
Basically. Obviously, there have been some Magic Standard leagues. But even in leagues, you can just get lucky or unlucky.
Sure, yeah.
So there have been some tribal decks that have kind of been going the distance. Generally Merfolk, which I think everybody kind of pinpointed as the first place to try anyway.
Yeah, was it Modern that suddenly had Merfolk based on Ixalan? So it's like...
Well, no, there was already Merfolk. It was a deck before Ixalan, but it certainly improved.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that's kind of the obvious first go.
I think there have also been some vampire decks. Dinos in the sense that some of the dinos are just value creatures, so you'll shove them in a green deck sort of thing. Yeah,
the Highlander guys made a good point about vampires as a tribe, that they're kind of going two different directions, like very aggressive and very controlling, and neither one of those archetypes is quite there, but they're both like in the same colors and use some of the same cards.
Right.
So, yeah, I'm excited to see if there's vampires in Standard for sure.
It'll be interesting. No real pirate decks that anyone's seen yet, but who knows?
There's plenty of pirates in
Rivals,
Limited.
Yeah, that's very true. So yeah, there have been kind of Grixis energy decks lying around. Mardu Vehicles did pretty well, which I don't think is surprising. I mean, it's a fairly aggressive deck. It's hard to deal with, which is what you want the first couple weeks of any new rotation.
It kind of disappeared there for a while, but I guess people just dusted it off.
Yep. I mean, a Braid is still very good against it, but you do what you can do. Some of the threats are pretty resilient, like the Scrounger and things like that.
Mm-hmm.
And what else was there? There obviously still Approach is a thing.
Oh.
Mono Red, which is now some people are calling Hazaret Red, just because it's running.
I mean, we could shorten that a little. Hazared, probably.
Hazard Red?
Hazard Red.
I don't know these people.
Hazard.
You heard it here first, folks.
This is a Hazard deck.
There you go.
So, again, it's the first couple weeks of a format. Always aggressive decks are going to do pretty well.
Sure.
Always existing templates that can kind of be, just modified with new cards shoved in. Those are going to do pretty well.
Sure.
So we'll have to see how things go the next couple of weeks, but at least it's not just all teamer energy.
Yeah, I haven't had time to brew yet, so I don't know. I have had time to play some Limited, though.
Yeah, how'd that go?
Okay. And you can read about that, because I posted an article about it.
Wow.
Yeah, I finally got back to the old writing on the website thing.
Productive.
Yes, and also fun.
Nice.
So that was at F&M, right?
That was at F&M.
For the new set?
Yes, the release night for the new set for Rivals of Ixalan, and it looks like potentially it's going to have some legs. Like, there's enough interesting rares and interesting uncommons that I think maybe you'll be able to do some stuff that's not just drafting tribes.
Yeah.
But I don't really know, because it's still miserable to try to draft in a 6-person pod. So,
sure.
You really need those extra 6-packs to fill out, good decks.
Yeah.
But check that out on the website, because links in the podcast show notes, description, whatever.
Yep.
The other thing that I managed to put up on the YouTube channel, hey, look at us doing
Since we're talking about it.
more stuff, is an unboxing for a Rivals of Ixalan bundle. Mm-hmm. And you should probably check that out. There's some interesting stuff in the polls. So
cool.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. There was more news? Was there anything else?
Yeah, just a couple of smaller things. So one thing I'm super excited about, Dragon Shield has announced, they did like a little teaser video about a month or two ago saying, hey guys, you like Dragon Shields, right? What if we had Dragon Shields with dragons on them?
And we all went, but arch sleeves suck.
Basically.
Yeah.
So in their teaser video, which you can find, I'm sure, on their YouTube page, they said, we're basically just, instead of doing the paint layer or whatever it is, the ink layer of the color of the sleeve, we're just doing a picture instead, so it'll be basically the same thing. And so they sent over a review batch to the professor at the Tolarian Community College. I think he's generally considered to be like the guy that you go to for product reviews and things like that.
He is. It's kind of one of his things.
Yeah, so definitely check it out if you're at all interested. He also looks at a couple of other brands of art sleeves which don't fare quite as well. He gave these an A+.
I was so excited.
Yeah.
We were bouncing on the couch like kids.
We cheered.
It was like Christmas.
So he said that they, at least the mattes, which are the ones that he was sent, the mattes are as good or better quality as the regular mattes, and they've also slightly adjusted the size of them so that double sleeving is easier. That
has always been my problem with Dragon Shields.
Yeah, it's the common complaint. It's the reason that, there is even a debate about what the best sleeve out on the market is. I think if they were just easier to double sleeve, everybody would use them.
Yep.
So, yes. The only problem is that the professor was accidentally sent a couple of different artworks, all matte. And in production, all but one of the patterns are actually going to be glossy.
Oh.
So they are doing mattes as well. It's just that the professor has not been able to test them for quality. So if you're
hasn't been able to test the glossies.
Right. So if you're interested in buying the glossies, you might be interested in waiting to see a review on that. Dragon Shield said that they believe they're of equal or greater quality to their actual matte sleeves, and that they are definitely at least as good as the regular Dragon Shield glossies.
That's exciting.
So if you like Dragon Shield glossies, apparently they should be fine, but feel free to wait for review. However, the mattes are apparently amazing, and I can't wait to get them.
I'm more interested in the mattes anyway.
Yeah.
I love the feel of Dragon mattes, so if these are similar, then yeah.
And they just last forever, and they come in packs of 100.
Yes.
So, I mean, we're not promoted by them, although certainly feel free to...
Yeah, if anyone out there is listening.
So, just people who play at Magic and have a lot of sleeves.
Yeah, oh boy, do we have a lot of sleeves.
So, keep a lookout for that. I know that our game store, he was waiting to see what the quality looked like before he ordered a bunch of them, but then
I grabbed him as soon as I walked in the shop, and I'm like, so, and he's like, already ordered.
I may have sent him the video of the review and said that the prof gave him an A+. So, at least if you have enough interest, they should be able to order for you, and apparently recommended.
That's so good.
And then the other thing, just to quickly chat about, I think we talked last week about the Channel Fireball, as they are, they have the monopoly on the GPs, and then just having some scheduling concerns.
Yeah.
I don't know if, was it on the podcast? I'm pretty sure it was. We just talked about the fact that some people were saying if you purchased a package, you didn't necessarily have enough time to attend all rounds of that event. If you wanted to then go to another event of the same strategy or same type.
If you wanted to use your whole package in the weekend time allotted.
Right. So if you wanted to only play Modern, you had to draw in your third round with your third round opponent to make the next Modern event, basically. So then somebody posted this week kind of a detailed breakdown of pricing. Just saying that compared to some of last year's events, they feel that there has been a bit of a downgrade in pricing.
Okay.
Compared to what it is that you're paying for the events.
So they're marking up further.
Right. So I'm of two minds. This is a business for Channel Fireball. They have a monopoly, but if people are still willing to pay and are still willing to show up for side events, then they have obviously not priced out of the market.
Sure.
On the other hand, as a player who has a budget for Magic, I will probably not be going.
Yeah, so that's you priced out of the market.
Right, basically. I mean, if it were a limited GP, or something I was actually interested in going to, I don't currently have a Modern deck, so if I were going to GP Toronto, for example, I would only be doing side events.
Yeah.
So if it were a limited event, at that point, it might be worth the money more because you're getting the whole experience.
Yeah, if I were going to a GP, it would be a limited GP.
Yes.
Maybe a standard GP, but definitely a limited GP. Then I would do a couple of side events because I'm there and,
Probably did in day two.
Did in day two, and I'm going to go back anyway. But I'm not intending to go to a GP simply for side events if it's going to be that kind of price. Because I still have to do all the traveling and et cetera, and then pay
staying in a hotel
more.
and
just
Nope.
And meals at a GP if you're eating in the venue, because at GP Toronto there were no places to eat within a 10-minute walk, basically.
And I can't get Soylent anymore because we're Canadian, so that's
God, America, you're messing it up for everybody.
That's right. Jeez.
Well, I mean, Canada's the reason I can't get Soylent anymore.
Not the point.
That said, when we did go to the GP, yes, the lines were ridiculous for the food, but it was fairly good. It was a little less expensive than I anticipated. So
that was someone else running the GP.
Yes, absolutely. But
although I guess that's a venue concern. I don't know.
I assume it's a venue thing, but yeah, I mean, the last year's event was face to face, and they did a very good job.
They did
a great job, guys.
Yeah,
I think so too.
So I think really all that we can say is, if you've been to one of the GPs, give them feedback.
And give us feedback so that we can give them feedback.
And give Wizards feedback. Because Wizards are the ones who are contracting Channel Fireball for this. So if you like it or you don't like it, they're also people that you should be directing your concerns to.
That is true.
So what else did we do in Magic this week? Did you do anything?
I looked at a bunch of island art.
Oh, you started putting together your Canlander deck too.
Oh, I did. Somebody posted on the Magic subreddit a varied history of Magic the Gathering island art.
It's hilarious.
With very funny commentary.
Yeah, islands that are not islands.
About how many of them are not islands, yes.
Like most.
Well, look, how many times can you really draw an island and make it
And then you get to Rivals of Ixalan, which is about a group of people going to an island in the middle of a chain of islands to get a big city on an island. So, of course, the island artwork is a river.
Yeah. Because... Well, River Heralds, sure.
So, anyways, it was very much in good fun. So,
yeah.
I thought it was funny.
Yeah.
Yes, I'm not 100% sure if I'm going to be doing the Swords League for this time around. I'm just not that into the format for this specific set.
You had me confused because I'm like, what? There's going to be a Canlander League?
Me too. I was super excited.
So if I don't do that, I'm going to just spend the money instead of on League on finishing up a Canlander deck that I am about halfway to building.
I mean, I saw the cards that I lent you, and they looked sweet. Yep. So, # Lingering Souls?
Yes, it's black-white. Involves Lingering Souls. I guess
sounds fun.
That is a very good card.
Leave it there. Oh yeah, it's all values. So a couple of fun Planeswalkers. Some interesting, powerful cards, as is true of Canlander.
I will be interested to do an episode on that in the future.
Yeah.
When I figure out what I'm going to do that's not goblins. Although I had a concept, but it's kind of tokeny, so maybe I'll try branching out and doing something else. Hey, maybe I should play blue.
You could do Merfolk.
I could do Merfolk.
You could do 4-color Merfolk vampires.
Mark my enthusiasm for Merfolk.
Yes.
Could do vampires. Could do Mardu Vampire. Well, that's just a commander deck. Yep. Whatever, we'll get there.
Yeah. So for me, the only Magic I really did this week, other than stuff with you, was working on the D&D campaign.
Yay!
So we're almost ready to go, are we?
Well, I'm sending out this evening, so Evan, you'll have gotten it before you hear this podcast. I am sending out the information that you guys need to kind of start thinking about your characters, which is exciting for me. And you and I are sitting down, and I am just fine-tweaking my grasp of how my combat stuff is going to work. And yeah, so I'm really enjoying the process. We found an amazing guy on YouTube that does a podcast, or that does it's sort of like a podcast almost on YouTube.
It's a video
series,
a vodcast.
yeah. geared at people who want to start playing D&D with their friends, and he wants to try to get to the people who are going to be the GMs. Mm-hmm. So he teaches you everything you need to know, and teaches you what you don't really need to know, and where the pitfalls are, and how things don't need to be as complicated as you think they are. And he's very dynamic.
Link in the description below.
Oh, yeah,
Matthew
for
Colville,
sure.
check him out.
Yeah, he's amazing. I watched the first episode and I went, well, hello there. I'm going to spend many hours with you. He's been a godsend,
He starts out strong.
Yeah.
So are you thinking next week or the week after?
A few weeks.
Yeah.
We'll leave it at that.
A few weeks. We'll have to think of another exciting series, or possibly just
something next week. Yeah, it won't be next week. We're going to have to see, because what may end up happening is we may do episode 0, and then in a week or two do the first actual.
Okay, that's fair.
Because that gives me time with your characters to fine-tune things that I'm going to need to fine-tune. So,
well, I have some ideas for some one-off content that we might be able to fit in places. So
nice.
Although we may have to record some of it on a day other than Wednesday.
That's fine. All right. Well, I guess we're going to hop into our main topic now, right?
Okay. Yes. So last time we didn't have a lot of time to talk about Joyra, so she kind of got just a shotgun blast of information.
Yeah.
But we have a whole, 30 minutes or whatever, 40 minutes to talk about the rest of what we need to talk about, and I think we're going to start with Teferi.
Okay.
Teferi, the boy in the bubble.
Really?
That'll make more sense in a minute. Teferi is a planeswalker. He was a planeswalker. He was the blue planeswalker in the Commander decks from several years back.
The monocolored planeswalker
decks.
Yeah, 14 maybe?
I think so.
Yeah.
The third series of them, anyway. And he is in the mythos from the plane, or from the continent of Jamura, which is analogous to is that cat going to purr over my commentary?
I don't know. We may need to move him.
We have a cat on the table, just so everyone knows.
Kind of wrapped around the microphone.
So Jamura is kind of like the Africa that you would expect white guys in safari hats to go safarying in,
I see, in the 90s.
Yeah, the subcontinent, It's a huge place which was untouched by all the other stuff that happened on Dominaria up to that point. And they did, I guess Mirage was set there, the magic set. Anyway, Teferi is a mage from Jamura who was picked up by Professor Urza and taken to the Tolarian School for Gifted Youngsters.
I'm sure this ends well.
Right. So he was a kind of a prankster.
Okay.
And a bit of a bully. And, what you would expect a gifted student, an elite, let's say, of magical, talented youth would be.
Right. So he was a teenage boy.
Yeah, basically.
Fair.
And then he got trapped in a slow time bubble for 2 decades. So...
Oh, dear.
I think I've read this story.
Yeah, probably. You've probably read bits of it. So, when there was a time travel accident and rifts started opening up around Tolarian Academy, at the same time that the Phyrexians decided to invade the plane, and that happens also sort of in Tolaria. Teferi got trapped for, I think he was in the bubble for approximately 5 minutes his time, but 2 decades passed him by.
Oh dear.
Oh.
He was also on fire for part of that time, and
that sounds unpleasant.
Yeah. So there was a lot of not nice stuff that happened, but he kind of didn't really grow up after that, but since everyone else had passed him by, he's kind of realized that he's out of touch. So he became a better person.
He didn't age, I'm guessing.
No.
Okay.
No, like, yeah,
Well, it's 5 minutes for him,
Yeah.
right?
think about that episode of Star Trek TNG
Yeah.
where there's the, the Enterprise blows up. Yeah, that one. No,
I mean,
the other one.
I assume it makes you kind of reflect on your life if you walk out the door and then 5 minutes later you walk back in and all your friends are
20 years
middle-aged.
older. Yeah. So that's a thing that happened. And then he helps fight the Phyrexians, and then once that's dealt with, because you can apparently just deal with Phyrexians,
Sure.
he goes and becomes a court mage in Jamura, I think. It's not really clear exactly when his Planeswalker spark ignites, because somebody specifically ignited his spark, but he didn't go planeswalking. Like, he didn't seem to realize it at the time.
Okay.
And then in kind of old school Magic fashion, he didn't really leave Dominaria much. It's kind of like, I think, Saheeli on Kaladesh. Mm-hmm. She's never really planeswalked. She's just a planeswalker. So he's also kind of digs the temporal magic. Phasing is something that Teferi is associated with.
Yes,
Okay.
Teferi's Protection, right?
Right.
The new commander card where you and all of your permanents phase.
Phase out, yeah. So that, when I saw that, I thought, okay, that's interesting. That's obviously Dominaria bait.
Yeah.
In that he was kind of responsible for not all of the time rifts, but he phased part of his home country in Jamura and part of High Salem, the island of Shiv,
Okay.
out.
I assume this is not done on purpose?
It was to protect them from the Phyrexian invasion.
Was it done with their consent?
That's unclear. Not really. So when they phased back in years later, it was going to be like right on one of these time rifts, and that was going to crack the multiverse.
That would be bad.
That would be bad.
Sure.
So at that point, he managed to fix it by burning up his Planeswalker spark.
Okay.
Oh.
Which is why I say he's not a planeswalker anymore. But, like, what's his name from Zendikar? Obnixilis?
Mm-hmm.
His spark has reignited.
Mm-hmm.
So
Right, yeah.
it's possible that Teferi is still a planeswalker. He's just not a planeswalker right now.
Sure.
You know? So when we get to Dominaria the set, we'll have to see. I hope he's not just magically a planeswalker again. I would love to see another Teferi legendary creature card, because there was one.
Yep.
I don't remember what it was from.
2 blue, I think it is, and then it's a flash 3/4.
Right.
And then your opponents can't cast spells.
Creatures you have flash,
Yeah.
and your opponents can't cast instants on their on
They can't
your
cast
turn.
spells on your turn. Yeah, so it's played in cube.
So that's pretty sweet.
It's not bad.
It plays with the temporal nature of things. Like your things are faster, their things are slower.
So just playing back to last week. So where exactly does his timeline overlap with Joyra?
They were students together.
Pre-time rift, post-time rift.
They were students pre-time rift, and then she grew up and he didn't. So that kind of separated them a little bit. Although they were also, he had a big crush on her, even though she had aged beyond him. So that was difficult for poor Teferi.
Aw, yeah.
And then I can't remember when the whole thing with phasing half a continent out happened in relation, but it was in Magic set time. That was the whole thing with planar chaos.
Okay.
Or plane shift. No, one of them is a supplemental product, and one of them is a Magic set.
Well,
Future Sight.
Okay.
Because the whole thing of
Yes.
that was Dominaria, the plane, was being drained of mana because all of these rifts were opening up, and they had to save the multiverse because, Dominaria is at the center of the multiverse, by changing the nature of magic, and that's when the mending happened. And that's why planeswalkers are now no longer godlike creatures, right? Or godlike beings. Yeah. They're just, near godlike beings.
Well, some of them are terrible.
Yeah.
Sorry, Tybalt.
Poor Tybalt.
Sorry, Jace, the new Tybalt.
Them's fighting words.
How far Jace has fallen.
Dovin Bond. Sorry, Dovin. That's the blue-white one.
Dovin Bond.
I liked him. He was just not very good.
Yeah, I mean, okay. I still kind of want to play him in something. I don't know.
Planeswalkers are sweet. Doesn't mean they're good.
The thing I loved about Dovin Bond was basically, if you look at his abilities, he's killing a filigree familiar.
Yeah, basically.
He's just
gain 2 life, draw a card.
Have a filigree familiar, gank. Anyway, back to Dominaria. So they were students at the Tolarian Academy, and the whole time rift problem was caused by time travel experiments.
Who could be doing those?
Well, Professor Urza wanted to time travel for reasons I can't actually remember.
Who wouldn't want to time travel?
Well, that's fair.
Yeah.
I think it was just to collect magical artifacts, but I don't recall. Anyway, he discovered that the only thing that can really safely travel through time is silver, for reasons.
Okay.
So he decided to make a golem out of silver.
I'm sure that goes nowhere bad.
Is this sounding familiar at all?
A little. I can see where we're going.
Mm-hmm. So Karn was also around at the same time as Teferi and Joyra, and those are the three that we've seen in the key art for Dominaria. Karn has a long and colored history, starting off as the gentle giant, kind of not really that interesting a character, and then turning into one of the most powerful cards ever printed.
Did we want to maybe pull up Karn the Silver Golem?
Actually, yeah, that's a good idea.
His card, because, his Planeswalker is just disgusting. But the actual Karn the Silver Golem, I mean, I've seen it played a little bit in Commander, for theme reasons.
Yeah, it does have uses. I mean, it's sometimes used as a commander in a colorless deck. So Karn the Silver Golem is a 5-mana legendary artifact creature golem. He's a 4/4. And whenever Karn Silver Golem blocks or becomes blocked, it gets -4/+4 until end of turn. So that's because he's a pacifist.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So, it's not the most powerful 7-mana card, or 5-mana card.
He does have another ability, though. You can pay 1, and target non-creature artifact becomes an artifact creature with power and toughness each equal to its converted mana cost until end of turn.
That seems pretty sweet.
Right, so
especially
that's the reason.
In a mono-brown commander deck.
Yeah. That's the reason he's played in Commander. It's also alludes to the fact that he made a plane full of artifact creatures, which we have returned to already once.
Is this Mirrodin?
This is Mirrodin, or as he called it, Argentum.
Or as we call it, the birthplace of affinity.
Yes.
Thanks for that.
Yeah. We also now call it New Phyrexia.
Yes. There is that as well.
So, when Karn was built...
So, did Karn start off as a person?
Karn started off as an inanimate golem.
Okay.
But his heart is a Phyrexian's heart, and that's an artifact, not like a heart.
Okay.
And Phyrexian heartstones, I think it was called, is made with Phyrexian oil. So Urza really should have known better.
That oil's the stuff that completely corrupts everything and turns it all into Phyrexian stuff, right? Just checking.
That seems bad.
So, I mean, Karn was kind of doomed to begin with?
It sounds like he was really doomed.
Urza's not a real nice person.
He doesn't sound like he has much foresight.
No, he doesn't seem to have a lot of think-aheadedness, does he?
And it's funny, because you'd think he would, being one of the most powerful planeswalkers
who apparently
ever.
Enjoys dabbling in time travel.
Yeah. Anyway, he built Karn with Phyrexian oil at his core, and for a long time it seemed like there was no problem with that.
Okay.
It was just a cheap and easy way to animate a golem.
Mm-hmm.
Or as cheap as a golem made of silver is. So, Karn was designed as an object of time travel, but also then was part of the legacy in some way. Hang on, I have to make sure that I've got my facts straight here. So, the Weatherlight and the legacy weapon and all that stuff really isn't pertinent to what's going to happen in Dominaria, I don't think. It's just that Karn was designed to travel through time and then as a weapon to fight Yawgmoth, because this is a new name. Yawgmoth is the Phyrexian overlord, basically.
Okay.
And he's the one that Urza had a big battle with, and everyone else was like, this guy's obsessed with defeating the Phyrexians, and Urza really didn't care about anything else.
Oh, I see.
Yeah, that's...
So it was good guy Urza, but no, actually, it was just, I have a beef with this one guy who happens to be the leader. Who happens
to be the worst tyrant of... Yeah, it's like having a beef with the Borg. Star Trek terms.
Does it make you a good person?
You're not necessarily a good person, but you're probably fighting for the right side anyway.
I mean, Species 8472 had a beef with the Borg.
Yeah.
I don't know if I'd call them the good guys.
Anyway, Karn was designed to be a weapon, but after that all happened, he turned out to have a spirit of his own, because that's what happens when you create a thinking being.
And infest him with Phyrexian oil?
Yeah. And Karn quickly became a pacifist, so fighting is not really in his nature.
Which I find fascinating, considering his, what he's created from and made out of. I think that's amazing.
Right. So Karn was there when the time spiral events happened, where the universe or the multiverse was at stake, and he was not yet a planeswalker at that point, I don't think, but basically Teferi, Venser, who I don't think we're going to care about because he's dead now, and at least one other planeswalker who I can't remember, basically burnt themselves out solving the whole thing in the mending. Mm-hmm. But Karn at that point, was it Urza's spark that he inherited, or Venser's?
I think it was Venser's.
He basically has both of their sparks. He's an uber planeswalker. Or he had to burn out Urza's spark and then got Venser's. So he's
powerful.
Before that, he went and created Mirrodin, and then after the events of the mending, he went back to Mirrodin, and when we next see him, it's during Scars of Mirrodin block, when the Phyrexians are taking over Mirrodin.
Okay, that makes sense.
And that's kind of where I thought he was going to come back into the story. Mm-hmm. Is like he had to abandon Mirrodin. He had to seal off New Phyrexia so that the Phyrexians didn't get out. And he was out wandering the blind eternities, just sort of being by himself. Which is why I was very curious when we found him in the art for Dominaria.
Because he was off having some me time?
Well, yeah, and trying to figure out how to limit his corruption, because, spoiler alert, he found out that he was infested with Phyrexian oil and needed to deal with it. That's what happened with Venser's spark. He managed to seal the infestation in Karn with his spark and then died.
That was good of him.
Yeah, so Karn is no longer a Phyrexian puppet, and he's back to being Karn, we guess. I thought he was having some alone time so that he could figure out how to be whole or get rid of the corruption.
So that'll be interesting. So he is still a planeswalker himself?
He is still a planeswalker. So Karn Liberated was from Scar's Block. I think it was from New Phyrexia. And that was what the Liberated refers to, is that he's liberated from the corruption of New Phyrexia. Cool. So Karn Liberated is a 7-mana planeswalker with 6 loyalty. His +4 is target player exiles a card from his or her hand. So the effect's not great, but it's a +4 on a planeswalker.
Yeah.
His ultimate is -14, by the way. So his -3 is exile target permanent.
That's not bad. So you can do that at least twice before taking up?
Yeah.
Wow.
Well, once before taking up if you want to keep him around, but twice if you just want to burn him on exiling 2 things.
Is it target player exiles a card from their hand?
Yes.
So it's kind of like a blind...
It's basically a discard one.
Yeah, discard, but in exile, so...
Yeah.
So
fine.
You drop him on 6, he goes to 10, he goes to 14, and then you can ultimate him. Mm-hmm. And his ultimate is restart the game, leaving in exile all non-aura permanents exiled with Karn Liberated. Then put those cards onto the battlefield under your control. So you start the game with everything you've exiled with Karn.
So that involves both his plus and his minus, right?
Yes. Yeah.
Wow, that's pretty neat.
That's probably the reason they said exile instead of discard or anything. But also, he has access to all 5 colors of mana, not just colorless. Like in the story, he is an everything mage. He's just sort of a master of all trades with no real drive to do anything about it. Mm-hmm. So I'm going to be super excited to see him back. Mm. The other two, I'm going to be interested to see what they do with old Dominaria, because there's just so much stuff that they have to pick something and go with it, right?
Or spend the next 20 sets on it.
Which they could also do. They spent the first 20 sets on it.
So do you think you're assuming that Karn's going to come back as a protagonist as opposed to an antagonist?
Oh, yeah. No, he's always been a good guy. Mm-hmm. If anything, they could turn him into a force of nature kind of villain. Mm-hmm. But I highly doubt. Like, the last time we saw him, a planeswalker had sacrificed his life to sort of make him well again. Yeah. So immediately undoing that would probably
suck.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Besides, in the art, it looked like he was on the good guy's side.
Good.
So do we think him showing up means that future sets in the near present might involve Phyrexia?
Well, that's the question that I had, because when they first started talking about Dominaria, I figured that it was going to be a Liliana backstory set.
Yeah.
Right? Because we found out in Origins that she's from Dominaria. Mm-hmm. We'll probably talk about that next week. I don't know if we'll have time to get into it. But with the 3 of them, Joyra, Teferi, and Karn showing up, they were all heavily part of the storyline with the Phyrexian invasion. Mm-hmm. So... And we haven't seen the Phyrexians since Scars of Mirrodin, and those weren't like true Phyrexians. Those were new Phyrexians, and we know the Phyrexians are still out there. Mm-hmm. So he's supposed to be dead, but Yawgmoth could even be out there still.
So they could be the new big bad.
Yeah, and they're a good big bad. Like,
considering Yawgmoth's ability on the card for Yawgmoth's Will was to allow you to play cards out of your graveyard.
Yeah. Well, the last time we saw him, he was a big black death cloud that was just resurrecting everything in his path as a Phyrexian.
Do we think Liliana made a deal with him?
Oh, Yawgmoth's bargain, eh? That's a good question. I highly doubt it. I don't think she would have been so foolish, but she made
deals with other people.
Yeah, so I don't know. Maybe we can talk about Liliana now. You had another question?
I do. For people who we have a general idea about Phyrexians, but there's a lot of people who have come to Magic in the last 3-4 years who don't really know anything about lore or about any of that kind of thing. Can you tell us just a tiny bit about the Phyrexians and how they were represented on cards?
Okay, so Phyrexia was a plane that was basically filled with black mana. It was the original evil plane.
Okay.
In much the same way that Sarah's realm was the original white plane of goodness. Mm-hmm. Although it was a demi-plane, and I think Phyrexia was a true plane. The Phyrexians predate basically everything in the Magic multiverse except maybe Nicol Bolas. Mm-hmm. Don't know about the timing there. I haven't bothered to check. But the Phyrexians warred with the Thran, and the Thran, I think we said in the last episode, are the people who, as a game, Magic was... So when Magic started in Alpha, the game was very much about, here's a little bit of history, here's a little bit of story. It was just basically a fantastical discovery game. Mm-hmm. You were playing these cards that had little snippets of story, and the story was there was a lost empire eons ago, and you're a magical archaeologist who's digging up these artifacts and wielding them as big batting whacking sticks against your opponent. Mm-hmm. Right? Mm-hmm. The original artifacts are just this is a lost relic, and those lost relics were from the Thran Empire. Mm-hmm. They fought the Phyrexians and kicked them off the plane, but lost because the Phyrexians are still around and the Thran are not. Mm-hmm. Right?
Now the Phyrexians, as far as card-wise go, mm-hmm. When you talk about the mirror, Mirrodin, you talk about the mirror, and they are smaller creatures that work together to kind of build a bigger issue. Is there anything what's the word I'm looking for? Mana-like, or is there any mechanic that is associated with them?
There's a bunch, because Magic, spans a great deal of time. Mm-hmm. I can't think of what specifically is associated with the Phyrexians, except they utilize the graveyard. Everything mm-hmm. about the Phyrexians was you can do this with black mana. You should do this with black mana. Also, they tended to make themselves into kind of weird cyborg artifact creature liches, just as a way of prolonging their own existence. Mm-hmm. So that's another reason that it's not out of the question that Liliana may have made a bargain with Phyrexia. I don't know that. That's an interesting speculation.
But I think what Tams might have been getting at, there is a well-known overpowered mechanic in mm-hmm. Magic known as Phyrexian mana.
Oh, so that's specifically from New Phyrexia, mm-hmm. and that was a kind of perversion of the mirror themselves mm-hmm. on Mirrodin.
Actually, that makes sense, because some of the mirror, you could tap them to add mana. They were mana ramp creatures, right?
Mm-hmm. Generated mana. They were elves in a world without elves, you know? And so Phyrexian mana was a way of paying your own life. Actually, that is very Phyrexian. Paying your own life for an effect. It's very black sensibility in Magic. Why would I pay mana when I can pay life to get more?
I've got lots of life. Yeah.
It's such an amazingly powerful mechanic when you're all tapped out and you're like,
oh yes,
ha ha ha.
Yeah,
I can just spend my life.
And so that's sort of black as a color. The identity is, I'm okay with paying this cost because it means more power. It means I can do things that I wouldn't normally be able to do without heavy dedication to some other thing. Black also tends to be the heaviest in mana symbols of any color. Like, there aren't a lot of blue, blue, blue spells, but there are a few black, 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 black ones, you know?
Yep. And not even a few of them. Like, there's several.
Yeah. So black tends to make you want to play more black. Yeah. And that's sort of... I mean,
it's a selfish color.
It's a selfish color, and that really informs the nature of Phyrexia too, because as the original kind of black mana tribe, for lack of a better word, they were like, maybe you just want a little bit of this, but if you have a little more, look what it'll get you. And that's why Mirrodin as a plane was so easy to consume by Phyrexia, because they're very mechanical. They're like, yes, of course I want to be better. I can be better, better, better.
Better, 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 better.
So I would not be surprised at all if we saw Phyrexians in the new Dominaria.
But we're probably not going to go back to Phyrexian mana, because that's just overpowered.
I could see it, because the problem with Phyrexian mana, which, as a mechanic, in case people don't know, a Phyrexian mana is a cost that you can pay either 1 of the color or 2 life. So you don't even have to pay like a life and a colorless mana. You just pay 2 life instead of this mana dot. So it's almost like the old, really super powerful cards like Channel. You know, you're basically channeling life into mana.
Right.
So the problem with it was that they had it on effects that were color specific. So like scrying and drawing cards for real cheap. Instead of having to pay blue mana for that, you could pay just life.
Oh, so you could put that in a black deck.
Right. Or killing creatures. There was like Dismember was the black card that was Phyrexian black, Phyrexian black, and 1. Kill anything. Right?
Give target creature -5/-5, technically.
Right. Okay, so give target creature -5/-5. It won't kill a Blightsteel Colossus, but it'll kill just about anything that really gets played outside of an endgame condition. And you could pay a single mana for that. So, and colorless. So everyone would play them.
Of course, because you didn't need to be in black to play Dismember.
Right. You could play a mono white deck and have a playset of double black cards that you didn't even have to play lands for.
Yeah.
And that was the problem. Now, if they had done things that were if they treated them more like artifacts, where this is an effect that everyone gets, but it's better in the color that it's in, then maybe Phyrexian mana wouldn't have been so busted.
Or if they had done what they usually do with artifacts and just priced it up a bit to make to cover for the fact that any color is able to use it.
But that also tends to be the reason that artifact sets have so many breaks.
Banned cards. So just theoretical question.
Sure.
Instead of paying 2 life, what if it had been 3?
I mean, maybe that's the cusp, but it still would have been... You would have been able to do things out of nowhere.
Sure, but suddenly Dismember costs 6 life.
Yeah.
You can no longer actually play a playset of them.
That's a question. And you can't play a playset in a single game, you mean, without killing yourself. Yeah.
Yes.
That's a reasonable question. I also like the idea of pay 1 life and a colorless mana instead of the color.
Okay, so it's not so much ramp, it's painful fixing, kind of?
Right, and that also would have been flavorful because the Pain Lands on Dominaria, if you remember.
Yes.
Caves of Koilos, the white-black land.
Yep.
That's where Urza and Mishra found out about the Phyrexians to begin with.
Right, so that's a land that taps for colorless, or you can pay a life and have it tap for black or white.
Right. So if they brought back fixed Phyrexian mana, I'm actually, wow. Now that I'm thinking about it, that would be super sweet. You could just pay 1 life for fixing on cards.
Oh god, it's too powerful. We broke standard again.
Way to go, Step.
It very well could be, too. So, I don't know.
That's why they have a play design team now?
Yeah. Although, I don't know, somebody should get that mechanic in the hands of Mark Rosewater. You can't tell him things because he is legally bound not to look at anything that they're not
I mean,
signing.
it's already something that you see with lands that, you can pay life. What is it, Inventor's Fair? You can tap it for any color mana as long as you pay life and have 3 artifacts in play or something like that, right? Or
wow, so that's an all-star. That has Metalcraft, and it's a pain land. Yeah. I don't know. I think that could be pretty sweet.
Mm-hmm.
Where are we going?
I think we are heading next week to talk about Liliana.
Okay.
And to wrap up our overview of the plane.
Yes, so that we're all ready when Dominaria comes out in, 2 months?
No, it's the Corset first, I think?
Corset first, yes. I'm so excited.
I'm pretty sure it's Dominaria first.
Is it?
I don't think so.
I thought it was Corset, and then I saw that Dominaria was, in April.
Oh.
And, April 22nd.
Okay.
So,
really?
Yeah.
It's
coming up real fast.
Oh, well, I am equally parts excited and sad because I'm one of the few people on the planet who really enjoys playing Corsets.
As soon as they announced they were bringing Corsets back, suddenly everybody loved them, so...
Oh, I liked them even when they got rid of them. I understood why they got rid of them, but I always enjoyed them.
I understand why they're bringing them back.
Me too.
Me too.
Yeah. So, thanks for joining us. I hope that was insightful and helpful. And
it was interesting.
If
definitely.
anyone has any questions that they desperately want me to answer before next week, please let us know. All of our contact information is in the show description. Also, you can find all of that on our YouTube channel, which is also in the description, so you'd have to... Yeah, that's really roundabout. You know what? We'll get better at this. Thanks for joining us, everybody.
Who's we? We're great at this. You just keep stomping all over it.
Sure.
See you next week. Well, you'll hear us next week anyway.
That's right. And possibly the motors as well.
Yeah, they're a little loud.
Those cats.
Those cats.